in Mystic Pizza is a perfect example. That feels that same way. It feels like that slice of life. It feels like it breathes and there's a lot of wiggle room. But it sounds like how that happens is within the structure of knowing what you're trying to accomplish at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It was scripted.
Yeah. They wrote a script for it. How about that?
Yeah, you allow for some, but I've noticed most of the time when there's a lot of heavy improvisation in a film I directed called Family Prayers, with Joe Mantegna and Ann Archer and Paul Reiser, Patti LuPone. Paul improvised all the time. Mm-hmm. Now he would always do the scene, but there would be a point where he'd keep going, and it was fun, and it was funny, and we used 20% of it, not more than 20, because if it's after the scene, it's after the scene. There's a dynamic and a tension to the scene, dramatic tension, and if you go past that, usually it doesn't work that well.
Right.
It's not that you don't want actors to have the freedom to move around a little bit and come up with something fresh. Everybody does that. But to go off, it's too hard within the structure, especially if you have a really good screenplay. Why would you want to do that?
Right.
You're dealing with real people and their emotions. And sometimes the other actors aren't always prepared for it. Some actors are, of course, they're ready, but some actors aren't as prepared for that. And, it makes it uncomfortable. So,
Right. Well, I think that's the reason a film like Home Alone, which had all the potential, and I'm sure you never talk about Home Alone, no one ever brings that up, but the obscure art film Home Alone that you worked on, that's a film where there's a lot of ways in which that becomes a forgotten movie. There's a lot of ways in which that becomes a sloppier, improvised, kind of forgettable comedy. But I think the reason that movie works is that it is so structured. The jokes are, a lot of comedy now, you have exactly what you described. You can tell they set up one camera here on the other actor, and a wide shot, and they improvise and they use the best improvisation for the shot. Whereas Home Alone, there's a lot of visual gags. There's a very structured, I mean, especially with the traps, obviously, but even with the visual humor of him in the mirror and things like that, that doesn't happen just by planting it and forgetting about it and not getting very specific in how you want to structure that out.
I mean, there were some things like even the mirror, like Chris did have Mac play around, a little bit, and with that. But otherwise, the improvisation, Catherine O'Hara, of course, is a master in doing for improvisation, and John Candy was pretty good at it. But so when we had them sitting next to each other, talking, whether it was, where was it, in that truck or whatever they were in, and that's the time to do it, right? Yeah. Just let them go. Let them go. And we did. We let them go over and over, lots of stuff. And we didn't use all of it, but we used a lot of it. And there are that's a controlled situation where improvisation works. Right. It wasn't in a scene that was already dramatically tendered.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
It was in a scene where they're sitting on a bench in a truck with other musicians around them, and they could just start talking to each other. Perfect opportunity to keep going, right? Just keep going. And Mac had that opportunity in front of the mirror. In fact, if I remember right, even this, he kind of came up with himself. So Chris let him do that because, look, it was just a camera and the mirror and the kid, right?
Yeah.
But those are good situations to do that with. But all the other gags and everything, you couldn't.
They're so structured and so organized. Yeah. I'm kind of curious. So obviously, again, the artistic mind has these ideas and concepts and things and what you want. And you've mentioned the business side, and obviously, especially shooting on film, every foot of film is costing you money. There's money just rolling and rolling. But I'm curious with the artistic decisions and things that you feel passionate about in the script process, or maybe something that worked really well in table reads and auditions. Is there anything that you ever felt very passionate about artistically that for the production, overall it'd be better to cut it, where it was a kind of a gut wrenching moment. Like, I can't believe we had to get rid of that. Because I know Scorsese obviously famously despises the blood in Taxi Driver, that they had to turn brown for the rating. Is there anything like that you can remember just feeling gutted over a decision where you had to choose one or the other?
Not really. I mean, in critical thinking, we had more stuff. We had actually more scenes with Michael K. Williams that just didn't seem to fit into the final movie, that were, really good, really interesting. And it was Michael K. Williams. He could read the phone book and be interesting.
Yeah.
And it is probably, out of everything I've done, the one movie where we had to really make decisions on some things to cut that we really, liked, but just didn't. It was like a different movie. It was like a different dramatic point that was like almost like a different movie. So they're not in the film, and some of it had to do with him, just not his acting, just the storyline of him being one of the fathers of one of the kids of the chess players. So, but not too much else. There's probably something that I'm forgetting.
I blocked out the trauma of whatever situation that was.
Yeah. Trying to remember if there's anything in Home Alone. There were bits and pieces, nothing big. The critical thinking, although it's more recent and easier to remember, it also did actually have some things that we knew we had to cut out. No, not too much.
Yeah.